Hello everyone, Funky Blood here, and today I am going to talk about this new Magiera album called FEAT or Feature. Magiera is a collaborator and a producer and a member of groups such as Hurt, White House, and Evorevo, and he has been releasing albums as Magiera since the year 2000. But in the last couple of years he has been releasing more albums per year than ever. This album isn't really about bringing popular music people together, except Sobel and Oki and maybe Pezet, but it does bring in a lot of features, and some of them aren't that great, but for the most part they do a great job. This new album of his is similar to the last one I reviewed, but this one has half of the tracks Sauce had and more of a premise than a collection of random tracks. The reason I say it has more of a premise than it has a premise is because it is kind of spotty. Is because parts of this album, mostly successfully, throw back to hip-hop from the 90s, like on tracks like For Now, Air, and Muck. And by 90s hip-hop I mean a lot of record scratches, chill rapping, and some tracks like Policy or They Aren't Yours being incredibly grimy. Also For Now, especially the last minute of it. However, the other direction this album takes isn't as great, and because it tries, not so successfully, to go for a modern sound, i.e. it tries to make mumble rap tracks, but unfortunately it doesn't go that well, and the most notable results are MSW and Necklace, which I think are not worth a listen, as the singing is bad, even though Sarius on Necklace does make it more bearable, but not really that terrific, and the production that is kind of underwhelming. I would also call Flash mumble rap, but the track is definitely more worthwhile, with its pretty production, actually good singing, and pretty background horns. And Pick Pick, which goes for a modern trap aesthetic with its booming production and instrumentals, and Travis Scott-esque rapping by Bonson. And also the opener, Rhythm, is another track in this vein, with its auto-tune singing and pretty cool production. I should bring up All My Life, They Teach Me Control with Oki, because while it's also in the same vein as MSW and doesn't sound as bad as MSW, I still wouldn't recommend it, with Oki giving a raspy and rigid performance that also tries to be energetic. The production on it, I'd say, is somewhere between solid and kinda bad. Little Fun is extremely good at blending 90s hip-hop with its production and guitars and today's world with Sobel, but it does have a huge problem with how on the hook Sobel for some reason imitates a cat, which makes the track kinda awkward, but I do think it's still an amazing one, but it does bring it down. The track Hit the Road is the most nondescript one on this whole album, with its mundane rapping and unexciting beats and jazz parts. Maybe if you're into some of the artists featured on this one, maybe you'll get something out of it. Also, the production at the end is whack, because nothing comes together. Lastly, I would call Air and About That much better than the lows on this album, including Hit the Road, are just slightly more exciting, and you might have noticed that I haven't talked that much of the 90s tracks as I have the other parts, but I don't have that much to say about every single one as much I have the other ones, because the core of this album is solid. It's kind of boring at points, kind of on the platonic Polaroid, something like that, or air. Most of the 90s tracks here are just great at what they are, and I will probably give them a high score. And that's pretty much all I have to say about FEAT. Magiera is very proficient as a producer, the concept is kinda spotty, but works, and a bulk of the rapping here is great. Plus the careful references are so dumb, but I love them. Mostly on for now. I'm going to give this record a 6.8. It was great for sure. Video over.